So by the end of 2011, we really hit our stride. Better locations, a more reliable core group of investigators, and better equipment. Investigations usually took about a month from start to finish. The first week was spent researching, following up leads and canvassing potential clients, starting with emails, phone calls, and always involving a personal trip to meet the people who owned or worked at a location. It was crucial in building some trust in what we were doing. Well, once the location was booked, the second week was usually spent scheduling investigators and who would be available for that time, replacing all the old batteries and tapes in our equipment. It was really important because there were claims that glitches were caused by paranormal activity, and battery drain could be claimed to be part of the paranormal. Wiping our DVR files, checking equipment worked, and just generally packing up everything so it was ready to go. The investigation itself would happen in the middle of the month if we could swing it. The longest part was always the setup, and that would take several hours on average to get everything in the right angles and put into the right spots where the activity was. We'd spend as much or as little time as we wanted at the location. You know, some places, as you would be aware if you ghost hunt, feel active and you just keep going all night. And if nothing much was happening, we might be over by 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. We'd break down all the equipment, and thankfully breaking stuff down seemed to be a shorter process. And then the hard work would start, reviewing multiple recorders, DVR recordings, camcorder tapes, all of the digital voice recorders. Each one would take up to 6 to 8 hours to review. I'd usually have one day where we'd all get together and do this, but ultimately everyone would end up taking home a recorder or camcorder so that they could do the review in their own time. Each investigator would then come back to me and present anything they'd found. I'd go through a probable list of say 40 or 50 anomalies and have to make decisions and whittle that list down to maybe 10 or 15 of the best pieces of evidence that we caught, if there was anything. In the last week, as I said last time, I'd burn a CD-ROM, a copy of evidence for the client, and I'd contact them, and then we'd go through the review in person. Sometimes that involved a long drive back to some of these places. And then it was time to start all over again. We repeated this formula month after month for 3 years straight. Getting a location booked in advance was the dream, but that was rare. It's also why we went back to the same location several times, as it was easier to book them in advance. Over this time, we documented many unexplained phenomena. So let's get on with it, shall we? So this is the Stone Room in Berrima. This historic building, included a dining room, a dining hall for dinners, cafe, a stone cellar and a wine bar. It had a great fireplace as well, a huge fireplace. It had been through many changes. I'm not sure where it is now. It could even be a private home for all I know. Built in 1844, it was originally a place for the stagecoaches to come into town, and it contained the original jail cells downstairs where the cellars now are, before the nearby prison. The first thing you're going to see here is one of our investigators asking some questions.
Is anyone walking past me? If there's anyone around, can you walk past that green box for me? Thank you.
Yeah, so we caught some good EVPs there. We didn't catch anything visually. The next place is the Break House Lighthouse, which is in Wollongong. It's one of the more iconic locations that you will see if you go to the town of Wollongong. It's long been since replaced by its more imposing neighbour, but it's still there as a guide for fishing boats as they come into the small little safe harbour there. It was built in 1872. William Edwards was the first harbour pilot at Wollongong. He guided thousands of ships in and out of that small port without harm. However, in 1867, as he battled to save the crew of the wrecked ketch Margaret Edwards in really bad weather, he drowned. And along with another lighthouse keeper, George Smith, from the 1920s and 30s, these became the regular spirits that were still reported today. It was a privilege to investigate here. Not an easy location because it was in really cramped locations and we had to run cabling up and down. For the DVR back then, there was no wireless. And yeah, so let's have a look at some of the evidence here. William. If you don't come down here, we'll go up there. Are you scared of us?
No.
Yep.
Give us a sign. I can go to.
Touch it if you want. Really, just touch it.
You would have seen license in your name. Touch the red line.
A lot of interference is now here in the ocean. If there's anyone here, could you make a sound? That's the sea, I hope. Well, that black shadow that went up the wall had us baffled. We automatically thought, well, obviously the lighthouse has windows in it, so let's get out our cars and start driving around the parking lot and start trying to shine lights through the window and see if we could replicate that. We couldn't do it. So the next place is the Warrawong Fire Station. This was kind of a weird one. There were rumours around that because there was a triple road fatality that had occurred outside the night in the 1990s, that there was a haunting at the station. But the reason we came across this is because we got a video that purportedly showed a ghost child. We were kind of skeptical when we took on the investigation because the purpose of the video we got was a retirement video made for one of the fireys. The mysterious apparition, they said, was not part of the video. I'll just pause it when we get to the part in the video for you. Yeah, so it made front page news of the local paper, but we didn't find much. You can see a couple of our motion sensors came off. I think if you look carefully, there's even an orb shooting out of the lockers, but that was it really. Now the next place, well, the next two places were private residences. And I always loved private residences, they were the best. Everything was contained within a family-sized home, and the family were always fun, and they could help us if they wanted to investigate or leave the property, whatever they wanted to do. But you got a more of a sense of familiarity with the property by meeting and talking with the owners. Okay, so the first one you're going to see is Battow Bay, which is up the north coast between Sydney and Newcastle, I think. There were no stairs in the place. The only stairs were outside, and there were some concrete stairs leading down to a basement, but this sounds like it was inside. This was weird. We were in bedroom, which I'll point out at the back of the main living room, which was the main bedroom, and we spent a good 15 minutes in there asking, provoking, trying to get something to talk to us. Nothing happened, and eventually we came out, left a recorder in there, and we were sitting in the main living room here just, you know, doing the same thing, investigating, and we caught this on the recorder.
I wonder if the door opens if it doesn't close. What's that?
The second property here is Mariah Heads. This one is south of where we were in Wollongong, beyond Bateman's Bay, and it was by a creek. It was quite a setback property. It was in a cul-de-sac. What I want you to look at here is where the arrows or the circles indicating. Have a look on the couch. Next up, we've got the Echelot restaurant in Berrima. This is a beautiful, it still is, a beautiful French-style restaurant in the heart of Berrima. There's been rumours here for years about hauntings. The owner at the time said he'd set a table aside with flowers for the spirit of a girl he believed was there, and she was appreciative of their offering every night, and it made the place quieter. You'll also notice we've got a couple of guys from California coming who were visiting Australia who were helping us out on the night. Just watch the wall to the left-hand side as they walk through. Notice they're not touching anything. Boom. Now, this next piece is again something visual. I'm not convinced about this. I believe it's probably one of our investigators, but something appears out of a room, goes back in, and then you see us walking past in front of the camera. One of the things that I said back then was that it was the investigator coming out of one room and then going around and coming back out of another door. But if you look at or if you're aware of the layout of the restaurant, it looks like whatever came out of that door was coming out of a bathroom, and the bathroom doesn't have an exit other than the front. But I don't know. It just seems suspicious that the first appearance of something coming out is holding what appears to be an IR light or a light of some kind, but I think it was an investigator. And here, just to end, is a couple of EVPs. Carrington Inn is closer to Canberra than it is to where we were living. It's a beautiful sprawling property, and it was built in 1885, and supposedly it has a history of hauntings, but the owners weren't very aware of that. So this is what we caught from there.
Can you come forward and try and make the lights come on again? I know it's difficult, but we'd like you to tell it's really you doing that.
I'm gonna trip over now.
Still 0.2, steady 0.2.
It's probably one of the clearest EVPs that we caught, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on in these videos. Next, we move to the Berrima Jail. This is another iconic and great location that we managed to get into. It was the first fully operational jail built from 1835 to 1839, and we were lucky because it had been closed since 2011 when we were able to investigate several times, but it would reopen again in 2016 until it finally shut its doors in 2020. There is a great history here involving cruelty and solitary confinement. There was even World War I German internment camps, and more recently, just before our investigation, it was a women's prison. We went there because struck up a conversation with the guards, and they were keen to alleviate their fears they had of hearing strange things while they were working their shifts at night.
Oh, freezing. What's your name?
That's a prison courtyard.
It's gotta be. It's a big area. Do you want to come play basketball? Bring a ball. Come on.
Well, the final one I've got for you was the Fountaindale Grand Manor. This also involved our second time using or having the TV media come along and be with us for a period of time. This time it was the local media, and well, I'll let them take up the story for you.
At an old Southern Highlands manor, strange figures and things that go bump in the night are nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, one couple got married at the Fountaindale Grand Manor just because of its ghostly appeal. Now, a group of local ghost hunters has set out to capture these paranormal occurrences.
Here at Fountaindale Grand Manor, strange things happen.
It's an old place and it's got a lovely history and it's bound to have something lurking somewhere.
Enter the Wollongong Ghost Hunters, a team dedicated to the scientific investigation of paranormal occurrences.
We just want to either put to rest some of the myths or hopefully, if you never know, we might be able to come up with something.
Originally built in 1924, this stunning building has a checkered history. It began as a luxurious hotel. After World War II, it was used as a hospice for returning pilots, and later became a school and accommodation house ran by monks. Over the years, there's been numerous reports of strange activity, including a gentleman who doffs his top hat at ladies on these stairs.
I personally heard footsteps and they were very nice during the night, and we had a couple who got married here and they got married because the ghost actually sat on their bed.
Uncovering evidence of the spirit world isn't taken lightly. The entire building has been wired up and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, some of it amateur, is at the ready. The group is led by science teacher Paul McCaffrey, and they only base their findings on facts.
There's nothing proven as far as we're concerned. We're quite sceptical about the whole thing.
During our time with the investigators, one of their devices was set off in this dark room.
Is there somebody in here with us sitting this off?
Turns out it was just our microphone, but that's the whole point of this investigation, to uncover what's unusual or what might just be the wind. While the investigators will be here until the wee hours of this morning, a lot of their work takes place in the weeks afterwards, when they'll spend hours trawling through video and audio footage. So we'll have to wait and see what's out there. Brina Barrett, Win News.
We'll wait and hopefully see.
Well, if you remember what the lady said, who was definitely not trying to make fun of our investigation, she said that there was often reports of a man who was on the stairs doffing his top hat. So we did capture this image again from our still camera DSLR that you saw from the last video. It's kind of interesting because unlike a shadow, it doesn't seem to be actually touching the wall. So there were plenty of other locations that didn't turn up much as well. As you can see from this footage of our special furry little ghost that had been the culprit of the poltergeist activity at this sound studio that we were asked to come in and investigate. Can you see it? But where did this leave us in answering our third goal after years of investigating? Within our core group, we really found ourselves back where we started. It felt like, at best, we were speculating about the same evidence each time. Majority EMFs, EVPs, rarely anything visual. This was already unconvincing to the science community. No scientist had ever said that the equipment we were using observed ghosts. I'd convinced myself maybe these might be something paranormal, but the odd anomaly here and there, that doesn't make scientific proof. If we were going to achieve our third goal, it was time for a rethink.